lack of demand, extremely tough competition, and UAW strike. Those are just some of the things that come to mind when we talk about the issues of automotive electrification. In all this mess, GM is in a pretty specific position as a company that has put an incredible effort in rapid electrification, but also a company that makes most of its profit from old-school pickup trucks, and a company that has been affected by the recent strike way more than its rivals. We present you with 6 shocking reasons why the GM CEO may turn her back on EV production after all. Number 6. Tesla beating plans delayed. Not so long ago, GM revealed a pretty ambitious plan for taking over the EV market in North America. The initial goal was to build 400,000 EV units in North America by 2024, but soon enough, it became obvious that this was a pretty unrealistic timeframe for several reasons. It's not just about the slow demand for EVs in North America, it's also because of the whole production process, which is far from efficient. According to the GM CFO, Paul Jacobson, GM is moving to a more agile approach to continually evaluate EV demand and adjust production schedules to maximize profitability. Jacobson also stated the following: "Given a more agile approach to our EV transition, we now expect to retime at least $1.5 billion of capital spending at our Orion plan, implement engineering improvements, and improve EV profitability prior to accelerating production of battery electric trucks. We will provide more detail around EV profitability once we have clarity on labor costs." What's also worth mentioning is that this isn't the first time GM has postponed this plan. The original idea, announced in 2021, was to reach the 400,000 EV milestone by the end of 2023. On the other hand, what's interesting is that officials stated that the other major goal, which is to reach 1 million EVs in North America by the end of 2025, remains unchanged. How this is going to be achieved is still unclear, but from today's perspective, it's pretty easy to say that Mary Barra's plans to top Tesla by 2025 were way too ambitious. That's not going to happen. Number 5. New EV models delayed. Do you need a better indicator than the fact that GM has delayed the production of possibly the 2 most important prospects for the future? GM is the leading pickup truck maker in North America, so it wanted to establish the same position in the newly formed EV truck segment. That will take more time than it was initially planned because the production of the new Chevy Silverado EV and GMC Sierra EV has been delayed. The initial plan was to start mass production in 2024, but it looks like the electric pickups won't be coming from the lines of the Orion assembly plant in Michigan before late 2025. According to officials, the delay is unrelated to the UAW strike. Allegedly, the goal is to implement engineering improvements and boost profitability, which takes time and resources. Last year, GM announced a plan to invest $7 billion in 4 Michigan plants to boost EV production capacity. $4 billion was planned for the Orion facility, a factory that has been rolling out the Chevy Bolt EV for years. However, there are 2 major issues with this plan. One is the lack of interest in EVs, as the company delivered just 18 all-electric Silverados and 19 all-electric Blazers. On the other hand, even though GM delivered a solid 1,167 Hummer EVs and more than 3,000 examples of the luxurious Cadillac Lyriq, the company still struggles to optimize production and make it efficient. So it's actually losing money on EVs, just like many other car makers do. All in all, this investment will take more time than planned. So we're a little bit concerned about the company's plans to switch to 50% of assembly capacity to EVs by 2030. With the current dynamics, there's no way this is going to happen. Number 4. The 6th generation of the small block V8 is on the way. The moment it became clear that the automotive future was going to be all electric, General Motors made the same mistake as many other car makers. They completely neglected the further development of internal combustion engines. And now, when it's obvious that the transition to battery electric vehicles is going to take way more time than expected, GM is making a huge investment in order to catch up with rivals. Namely, GM plans to invest nearly $1 billion in 4 US plants, and most of that money, around $580 million, will go into the development of the new gas-powered engines. The company will invest in a new V8, in the 6th generation of the well-known small block engine. The plan for full electrification by 2035 remains, but until that happens, GM will need a competitive gas engine. The last time the company developed an engine of this kind was a decade ago, so it currently lags behind key competitors, which isn't a good thing. if we consider that this is arguably the most important engine in the whole company, an engine that is used not just for popular pickups and SUVs, but also for luxury models from Cadillac, and even the high-performance sports cars like the Chevy Corvette. As for the rest of the investment, smaller part of it will go for further development of other ICE parts such as camshafts and manifolds. Number 3. GM is considering EV alternatives. GM is a company with a comprehensive offer that includes all kinds of vehicles, but the most important part of its offer is definitely pickup trucks and SUVs. Vehicles that are designed to work hard, which may be a problem in the case of all-electric vehicles. Namely, the short experience with EVs has taught us about many limitations that come from battery electric vehicles under heavy exploitation. The range is already a limiting factor, but things become even worse once you realize that the already limited range drops down significantly under heavy exploitation, such as towing, hauling, and off-roading. Therefore, it's no surprise that GM is working on alternatives. Our reliable sources suggest that GM is also working on hydrogen-powered vehicles. Although hydrogen technology is still way too expensive for passenger car programs, most experts agree that it is a way better solution for commercial purposes. In GM's case, that refers to pickup trucks, light duty, heavy duty, and medium duty. The benefits of hydrogen are numerous, starting from potentially much longer range, way better resistance to heavy exploitation, and significantly shorter refueling time. Number 2. New Chevy Bolt coming. Not so long ago, GM officials announced plans for 5 new small electric models, but it looks like that's not going to happen soon. The company made a U-turn and decided to, instead of launching brand new models, bring another generation of the Chevy Bolt, the company's EV bestseller. Reasons are quite obvious, starting from the fact that this is by far the most popular EV in GM's range. Although outsold by the Tesla Model Y 4-1, it still takes more than 80% of all EV sales in General Motors. More importantly, it has been showing a trend of increasing popularity in the last few years, with 2022 being the most successful so far. And judging on the current numbers, 2023 is going to be even better. This model clearly shows that American buyers are rather interested in something straightforward, something that's rather affordable, than something impressive performance-wise. The second reason is the fact that the Bolt is relatively cheap to make. It's one of those rare EVs that actually bring profit. And considering the company has lost billions of dollars recently on various fines, UAW strikes, and other things, this makes perfect sense. The new Bolt will bring evolutionary changes and use older generation, cheaper batteries, which is yet another indicator that GM will have to slow down and reschedule electrification plans for the future. Number 1. Still miles away from making profit on EVs. Electrification is arguably the most radical change in the automotive industry in the last 100 years or more. Suddenly, all those patents and technological advancements that took decades don't count. Legacy car makers or startup companies are all in the same position in the race that could potentially wipe off many traditional car makers from the face of the earth. In such a set of circumstances, GM's transition plan isn't much different from the plans of other car makers. Legacy companies have the advantage in the way that they can use the profit they make from traditional ICE cars for the development of EV technologies. But the transition doesn't go as smoothly as expected. It looks like it'll take way more time. The reason is quite obvious. The demand isn't high enough. New technology is expensive, meaning that all electric cars are still way too expensive for an average buyer. The middle class feels betrayed and therefore would rather choose internal combustion or hybrid cars. After the initial boom, EV sales started to slow down, and most companies don't sell enough EVs to make them profitable. GM, like most other companies, is still losing money on every EV it sells, and from this perspective, it looks like those projections that were suggesting that EVs would become profitable by 2025 were wrong. The world needs more time for this kind of transition, which suggests that car makers will have to pay more attention to ICE cars, as they will undoubtedly remain active for a few more decades. And with so much pressure put on buyers, with the prices skyrocketing in the last few years, we don't see how GM or any other company can invest so much in EVs and transform the whole industry overnight. Things will have to slow down and go at a more natural pace. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.